Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Young Hendrix, Bobby Bandrix. We got all tips and names for all different types of reasons. Anyways, going into this video, we're going to be taking a look at a player. And the reason we're going to be looking at this player is because we're doing a new series on the channel. We already have the Mafia Mandem franchise going on. We're still going to be continuing that, like always. Hey, that video is going to be coming out every day. But we're going to be doing something like this series. I want to say maybe once a week. I'd like to do it once a week if it's not too hard to possibly do. Anyways, we're going to be looking at what's next, and the reason why I call this series is what's next is because we want to see what's next for this player. Now, the first episode, we're going to be taking a look at Andrew Wiggins. Anyways, getting into the weird case of Andrew Wiggins, former #1 overall pick in 2014, being taken over guys like Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Julius Randle, and Zach LaVine, former teammate actually. Now, Andrew was hyped from the get-go, going by the nickname Maple Jordan and being dubbed the next LeBron by many news outlets, but in reality, he was just a trading piece for LeBron. The Cleveland Cavaliers had the first overall pick back in 2014, and they selected Andrew Wiggins. But right after that is when LeBron James rejoined the team, back in free agency. Now, when you acquire somebody like LeBron James, you're going for a win-now move, and it looked as the almost promising future for Andrew Wiggins slowly became him being traded away. Andrew Wiggins was then traded for all-star forward Kevin Love. Absolutely had a monster year, but hey, we're not here for Kevin Love. We're here about Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins had a good rookie year, taking home the award of best rookie, averaging solid numbers of 16.9 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and only 2.1 assists per game. Wiggins looked promising going into year 2, bumping his averages up to 20.7 points per game, losing a step in rebounds going down to 3.6, and still keeping the 2 assist numbers. You don't like passing much, do you, Wiggins? Still a growing player regardless. Andrew was joined by Rookie of the Year teammate Karl Anthony Towns in 2015, and the two were start of something possibly great in Minnesota. Going into the 2016-2017 seasons, we see Wiggins' best scoring year yet with an average of 23.6 and keeping relatively the same rebounds and assist numbers from his rookie season. But it looked like the former #1 overall pick was blossoming into the all-star and possible All-NBA talent he was projected to be. Many people started looking at Andrew Wiggins and Cat as the next Shaq and Kobe duo in the NBA, especially when Wiggins hit a turnaround fade we've seen Kobe hit hundreds of times in his career. The kicker was Wiggins hit the jumper on Kobe himself, and you could see Wiggins and Kobe talking about the shot and Wiggins saying, "I learned it from you." This moment went viral at the time, and there was nothing but great expectations from Wiggins and Towns going forward. I mean, being compared to the second greatest shooting guard of all time and a top 10 player of all time. What is there not to like? Only thing next for the pair was to make the playoffs, and in a move to bring a possible playoff berth sooner, the Wolves ended up trading away Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and the 7th overall pick in the 2017 draft to the Chicago Bulls for all-star guard Jimmy Butler. Coming off one of the best years of both Jimmy and Wiggins' careers, the trade looked promising as Butler brought playoff experience and a leader mentality to the Wolves, but ultimately this was just the beginning of the downfall to the Timberwolves' possible success they haven't had in years. During 2017, Wiggins accepted a 5-year, $147 million max extension with a simple understanding, just one understanding. Not a clause in the contract, but just an agreement. Continue getting better. And as stupid and simple as that sounds, it's actually the root of all problems going forward. Let's rewind a little bit though. Back in 2015, Andrew Wiggins was on a Bleacher Report list of projected top 20 players in the 2020s. And guess what? Guess what place he was projected? He was projected to be the second best player in the 2020s. Now, to give Bleacher Report some credit, the list wasn't horrible, it was just awful. Going into the 2021-2022 season, LeBron James is still regarded as a top 5, top 3, and depending who you ask, even still the best player in the NBA currently. And guess what list he was left off of? That same Bleacher Report list back in 2015. But still, being regarded as such high potential, there's nothing wrong with the player. What could possibly go wrong? What happened with Andrew Wiggins sent him down a path of disappointment and failure? Was it the sketchy field goal percentages, the lack of a great free throw, or just the love of the game that possibly went away after getting paid such big money? Many things go into the downfall of Wiggins, and having Jimmy Butler was a start. The two clashed as wing scorers, but Jimmy was the clear better defender between the two, and just, in general, the better overall player. Wiggins, who has yet to make an All-Star game or All-NBA team, was looked at one of the hardest working talents in the NBA at the time. You'd think they'd find a way to work together, but that wasn't the case. Wiggins got lazy and got some of his shots taken away from him, but ultimately it was his own consistency that drove his numbers down, settling for long contested twos, and overall, the two players just clashed instead of complementing each other. The Wolves finished with a record of 47-35 and managed to make the playoffs for the first time since 2004 as an 8 seed and played James Harden's Rockets, who were the number 1 seed. Ultimately, the Wolves lost the series 4-1 in the first playoff series since 2004. Very disappointing. After Wiggins' extension started to kick in, the Wolves did not have enough money to sign Jimmy Butler to a max extension without going into the luxury tax. And with growing frustrations with Wiggins and Towns, Jimmy then requested a trade after the infamous practice in which Butler took the third string, yes, the third stringers, and beat the starting lineup. It was a message of how serious Butler was compared to the Wolves at the time. It only took 10 games before he was shipped off, but what does this mean for Wiggins? The chance to become the second leading scorer and head back to the Wiggins we once knew. 20 point per game scorer, second best scorer on his team. What's there not to be excited about? Well, Wiggins shot like shark shit and continued his downward spiral of being an overrated scorer with decent defense on a horrible contract for the value. Going into his final season with the Wolves, Wiggins stepped it up to 22 points per game while also being experimental as a point guard for the Wolves in an attempt to bring out the best and full potential of a once promising player. Once the trade line was upon us, it was announced that Wiggins and protected first was to be traded to the Golden State Warriors for D'Angelo Russell. Wiggins had the chance to show off his ability being the primary scorer with an injured Curry for the season, but he still only managed to put up 19.4 points in 12 games before the season was halted due to COVID and the Rudy Gobert. Yeah, you get the picture. Going into 2021-2022, the once projected second best player by Bleacher Report has become just a second and more than likely third option once Klay Thompson returns. Wiggins has also been the center of attention in most trade talks to possibly bring in a third star for the once repeating world champion Warriors. So what happened with Wiggins? Despite how bad the story sounds, he's still the leading scorer in total points from the 2014 draft class, and is actually in 5th place going back to 2012. Not that bad actually, not that bad at all. In the end, he's just been a product of inconsistency and honestly horrible management. With just 2 years left on his current contract with the Warriors, what's next for Andrew Wiggins?